Hey guys, Jeremiah, Stone Blue Airlines. Quick update. Just want to let you guys know we've got a discount coupon going on this weekend. We hit 1,900 likes on Facebook. So we decided to put out a brand new code, 5% off. Use the code all uppercase, Flying Monkey. And get your hands on one of these brand new crosshairs from True Aerial. We've got those in the store. After this little clip, stay tuned. We've got what we call the Improv Cast. It's all audio only, and we talk all about glue. It's going to be interesting.
Hey guys, this is Matt from Stone Blue. We decided to do an improv cast, and we are... Actually, I have no idea where we are. Jeremiah?
We're on the road. We're heading to Florida, and we're somewhere between home and Florida, maybe an hour and a half away. We just started our trip. It's Wednesday, and we decided to leave Dodge because we heard snow was coming.
Yeah, and we, we got to trust our GPS on this one. I saw that we just passed South Boston, and yeah.
Well, we are supposed to be heading south, right?
Well, yeah, the south part was okay, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, y'all. Anyway, we were just. It's late at night. It's dark outside. Honestly, we're trying to stay awake. So we went looking around, and we found the Flight Test podcast. We were listening to that a little ways, and
we got inspired.
Well, you know what? We got inspired, but kind of got a little bored with that particular topic that they were on. So we started talking about adhesives, which, I mean, that's much more exciting.
Everybody knows if you really want a good conversation at a dinner table, start talking about adhesives.
Well, yeah, so we figured, why not take out the iPhone, record this, because, there's actually some interesting points. Doing the custom builds, we have gone through just a lot of different types of adhesives. And then coming from the store point of view, we want to carry some adhesives that we find particularly useful and well suited to EPP application. So we've gone through some that we didn't like. We've gone through some that we absolutely love, and we're stocking one of those currently in the store, and we're just fixing to bring another one in.
Yeah, I mean, gluing EPP is it's kind of tricky, but it's not. It's awesome. EPP is great because you really can put most things on it and not really have an issue. That it's not going to eat up the foam. But at the same time, the issue is paintability, also sun fading, and then also a changing color. That's an issue. And we found that to be the case with some glues. And also the...
Okay, we had a little bit of a pause here because we had a phone call come in from Blackbird FPV, Zach down there. And we were just laughing because the phone was locked, and, well, I figured the code out.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, goodness. Anyway, we were talking about adhesives. We were talking about some that we were going to bring into the store. Now, there's been a few that we've tried, and probably the most predominant, especially in the kits that you get with the video aerial systems and everything, is welder adhesive. Now, you might find one, maybe two tubes in there. We have found that there are some special considerations to take into account when using that glue. But overall, it's an outstanding glue, and it's a great one for VAS to put in their kits.
Yeah, Welders is awesome because it tacks up really good too, and I mean we've used it pretty much on a little bit of everything, and it works really well.
We've actually found two that tack up better and quicker than Welder. I mean, that's not to say that Welder, is diminished in any way, but the stuff that we decided to go with, the stuff that we really like. I mean, let's be honest. It does have some good points above and beyond Welder.
Yeah.
Now,
specifically for just gluing up EPP.
Yes.
The foam tag, beacon foam tag.
That is the Cadillac. Why do we say the Cadillac? I don't even like Cadillacs.
Well, I think it comes down to when you're building.
I'm not being serious at this point.
Yeah. When you're building, though, I mean, gosh, it's funny to even say this, but I'm like, I've been monkeying around with the RC hobby and building stuff for 15 years. How long have you been doing stuff? Since you came out of the womb?
I don't even know my kids' birthdays. Come on, I don't know. Yeah, I've been fiddling with stuff for forever, and then on top of that, working with this. I don't know if you guys know this a lot, but I used to work on Space Shuttle and also the Constellation program and different things. So, my dad worked for NASA and on the Space Shuttle program from the first shuttle launch to the last one. So,
see, because my dad worked on the shuttle program too, worked on booster rockets.
Yeah, so. The SRBs, and we had our hands on those too. Actually, that's kind of a scary thought, me having my hands on solid rocket boosters. But we've been around adhesives a long time. And
wait, what year date range were you working on those? Should we go back? Is that during the Discovery?
You know what? You could just no. But anyway, we're getting you really let in on our conversation. Just shut up, Jeremiah. I don't want to hear it.
No. So back to Beacon. Why I think it's like when you say it is the catalog. It works really well, and when we're doing these custom builds, we're using some really good adhesive. What I think Beacon is great is it tacks up on that foam so quickly and allows it to basically get the airframe put together, tacked up, where you're not waiting a long time for the two pieces to basically, adhere themselves.
Well, let's caveat that, because with any of these adhesives, one of the things that you're just going to have to make it a point to do is give the adhesives enough time to cure properly.
Right.
That's something that I've definitely found out the hard way, and that's going back to welder again. Now, welder is air activated, and it really, especially when you're putting spars in and everything, the last thing you want to do is spar it up, think it's set in there because you waited an hour and it's not really moving, because underneath inside the groove that you cut for the spars, that welder has not fully cured. It has not, it's not set. And when you put the laminate on there, what you do is you inhibit that curing process.
And you don't, when building this way, you don't want to put everything and assume you're going to do it in one night. You really should get the the airframe glued together, plan on sparring it, and then letting it sit for a day.
Yeah, absolutely. And while everything's curing up, I've really come to depend and love larger T-pins, because you're able to set things exactly where you want to. And with EPP, it doesn't matter if it's a kit that you buy that's cut by hand or a kit that you buy that's done on CNC or anything. It's going to have imperfections, because the EPP blocks, it's not as much of an exact science as you might think. There's different densities even throughout the blocks, and there's going to be variations in the product. So, that's your opportunity when you're putting these things together, when you have the adhesives, to work out any of those imperfections that keep you from having a true plane. Now, the welder, you do have to let it sit, you have to let it air. I would let it do it overnight. That's what I normally do on custom builds and everything. There's another consideration with welder that you have to tackle. If you are not painting your plane, if you have wide EPP, for example, when that welder gets out in the sun, and over time, it will yellow.
Yeah.
So
you want to be careful on placement of that, or how much you're using on areas where if there's an overlap, you're going to see it later on.
Well, I do enough of this stuff now where if I have any adhesive oozing out of the crevices and everything like that, I'm able to clean it off and remove that without any residue hardly. So that combats the welder issue right there.
Now Beacon, specifically with them, they don't have a coloring issue that we've noticed.
No, and when we say Beacon, that's the manufacturer of two different adhesives that we've really fallen in love with. The Foam Tack, which is specifically formulated for foam planes. I think you can even use it on the EPO.
Yeah, I think it seems to be able to be worked on a lot of different foams and plastics, and yeah, it's amazing too. It's not a cheap bottle of glue, but it's like
when we're doing high performance planes, we know we're going to be going fast and everything, and encountering a lot of stress during flight. We pretty much
that's what we use in the Pro builds. Yeah.
We have to, and that stuff is going to hold. I mean, I've done tests with it, test blocks, EPP, and you know I've done tests with the weight. I've done tests with stress tests and everything, and with the foam tack, you are going to be tearing the EPP apart before you tear that adhesion zone.
It's like I think of almost like Elmer's wood glue. When you break something in wood, you use Elmer's, you know you're never going to break that joint again. It's going to break before or after it. And that foam tack just works that well on the foam to adhere everything well together. And we don't really have any separation afterwards. You do the T-pin setup, and that joint is just seamless.
Well, you know, I'm glad you mentioned Elmer's, because there's a wood construction glue that's often used by some people in the RC community, and that's Gorilla Glue.
Yeah.
Now, the glues that we've set ourselves on are ones that are air activated, that are going to tack up after they come out of the bottle or the tube. Gorilla, on the other hand, you got to use water to activate that, and then when you do, it's going to expand. So a lot of times it's a messier option that I don't really care to go with.
Yeah, I've tried it as well, and it does work well and it does hold well, but it is very, very rigid. And I also feel like when you're building a plane, not only do you want the rigidity, but you also want some inherent flex in some of those joints.
I'm glad you've mentioned that, because that's one of the things that I mean, this is kind of, I'm sorry everybody, it's kind of turning into a commercial over the foam tack, but we've completely fallen in love with it. One of the things that it offers is the flexibility.
We didn't just like it. We've used it for a long time, and it's not something we just bring in, 50 tubes and great, we're going to sell something, or we're just going to, get right behind it. It needs to be used, it needs to be proven, and then through that's why we go with something that's set, because there's no point in keep jumping around when you find something that really works after doing
No, definitely not. And then there was another product by them, what's it called? We're in the car, we're driving, it's hard to...
Yeah. What is the other
Quick
one?
Grip.
Quick Grip, yeah.
Yeah. Quick Grip is a step down from that foam tack. The adhesion qualities are the same, except there's something I don't like with it as much.
Freeway.
Stay on freeway. Okay, stay on freeway, Jeremiah.
All right.
It creates little bubbles when it cures.
It kind of serves a different purpose.
Yeah.
And using it for some filler, and also, let's say you have a damage or something done, you can use it to fill in gaps or seal in stuff. It's also a hair thicker too.
It's a hair thicker, but we caulk our glue seams as far as like where we're mating the coroplast to the EPP, and on where like a fuselage joint on an aircraft joins a wing, we'll wind up actually putting a bead of adhesive in, and we'll treat it almost like a caulk. And what it does is it smooths out those transition lines a lot better, and it gives that rigidity that we're looking for. That way the nothing moves. But
right.
When doing it with the Quick Grip, this is just, okay, you're going to be let in on just how anal I am about putting these things together. It leaves little bubbles in the adhesive. So when we're doing these really tricked out paint jobs and everything like that, sometimes I like to go with maybe Goop.
Yeah.
Goop is a great one for caulking and filling in the seams and everything.
And again, too, it gives. I love using it on winglets.
Yeah.
That is a great area to use it, because the winglets can give a little bit. You're not going to worry about, because they take a lot of abuse on landings. and you want it to flex a little bit so that you're basically not damaging them every single time. And in a wreck or whatever, something's going to give versus just bending the EPP. The winglet's going to move just a little bit, but they don't ever let loose.
Yeah. Now Goop is good all around. I mean, that's a good all around adhesive. It's thick. So there are times that I like to use it for the caulking and everything like that, where the Beacon adhesives are a little bit thinner. I think they have a little bit of acetone in them or something.
Yeah, I mean, when you do a wing joint and you're joining a wing together with the foam tack, it is almost non-existent that there's almost glue there. Once you get it in, it like soaks in, but it gets so tacky, and you can just slap that thing together. I would say almost less than a minute.
Well, and on top of that, it's a lot lighter than Goop or Welder too.
Yeah. You don't have a joint afterwards. It's done. It almost looks like a one seamless piece of foam.
Yeah, absolutely. With Goop, however, going back to that again, we'll caveat that.
Yeah.
That takes the longest to cure up and set properly.
Yeah.
Take your time with that. You're going to have a great adhesive quality with it. It's going to have the flexibility you want, but you have to let it cure. That's definitely an overnight.
Yeah, so if you're, normally you want to use one of the other ones to tack stuff in place, get it in place, and then come back with some Goop as like a final filler or a joint. And yeah, it definitely takes a while. I used to do, when I would do winglets, I would literally glue one up, let it sit for 3 to 4 hours on standing basically up and down, set some books on it, just to let it tack up before I even hit to the other side. Where if you do the other process, you can come back, basically hit both of them, work a top side. I'll do a couple different layers, and then, but you really need to let at least 24 hours go on that.
Yeah, especially on some of the bigger, like the Behemoth and different things. Sweepwing's Behemoth, it's a very large wing, and we're expecting, to fill it with some heavier payloads and everything. And when I do that, I'm using a gargantuan carbon fiber bar that runs the length of the thing, and that requires me to hot wire cut a trench. Now, in an application like that, where you might have a little bit more play and more surface area, I will use Goop, just because it's
exit left
it's
onto 29 south.
I'm sorry, this GPS. It has that filling where you put the bar in there, and it's going to expand the Goop out because the viscosity is going to stay. It's not just going to soak in, and it will grab onto those cracks and the crevices a lot better. But I have to T-pin that in place and let it cure completely overnight at least.
Do you find it's worthwhile to even wipe down some of the like fiberglass rods or bars as well for an adhesion factor, where sometimes you can end up with dust left over from the manufacturing process, stuff that way?
I don't think there's sometimes with that. There's always carbon fiber dust, and it's such a fine particulate too. It's something that needs to be taken off. At the very least, it needs to be wiped down with alcohol. But what I wind up doing a lot of times is I'll go ahead and I'll scuff it up, maybe even with just 120 grit sandpaper or something, run it over there, maybe, use some circular patterns when you're doing that. That way you create the little scratches on there that help hold all that stuff in better. But then, absolutely, I go through and I clean it off with alcohol after that.
It's worth it. The little steps up front make a huge difference in the performance of the wing, how everything goes together. And especially from the custom shop, I mean, Matt, what you're putting out and the wings that are being put out, they are extremely stiff. I wouldn't worry about any of the wings being able to hit 100 miles an hour with ease and not even thinking about it pulling out of it. You don't want a plane that, you're going to have to worry about spars letting loose and, on a hard dive and basically pulling out of that. I mean, we build them so that they're extremely tough, extremely strong, and you don't have to really worry about, stuff letting loose.
I'd rather overbuild it.
Yeah.
I would much rather overbuild it.
Well, no one's ever crashed flying FPV, and especially no one ever crashes in this hobby. So,
Especially us.
Yeah. No, it is. You build and assume that you're going to crash and crash hard at some point. And I'd rather have a wing cartwheel over and over and then just go pick it back up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what it's made for. You know, what we're hoping with the custom builds and everything is that you actually have a plane that has a long lifespan. You know, it's definitely not one of these things that
In 1 mile.
all right,
Right.
let's get a little bit personal. These are my babies. I want them to live.
You want them to live for a long time, and we've seen guys get them and chunk them pretty hard, and you know, they didn't do something right on their launch, and they go and pick them back up and get them back flying again. Well, hey, for our first
Improv
cast. Well, it's always
Yeah, I mean, we actually want to thank you guys for allowing this opportunity to stay awake on a long drive. It gave us something to do.
Yeah.
It's late at night, and we definitely appreciate it. We appreciate the time that you're giving us to be able to learn some of these tips that we've learned through trial and error.
And we've done something we love. We've talked about adhesives.
I'm strangely stimulated.
And on that bombshell. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
We'll see you in
listen
Florida.
to-
Maybe you'll get this tonight. We'll see you in Florida.